law changes proposed for sports betting. Now, I've got to be honest with you. I got given, I joined TAB Sports, Josh. And the reason I joined TAB, or I subscribed to it, TAB Sports, was because I was fascinated to know what the odds were for a rugby game. I can't remember what it was, but it was a rugby game. And I don't know why. I thought, oh, the TAB Sports will have it. So I went on to it. But they made me subscribe to them to get that information. So I did. And they gave me, because I was a new subscriber, Josh, $20. Okay? Gave me $20 and said
Yeah,
you can
they
bet.
quite often have little deals on like that.
Well, well, do you know I turned that $20, Josh, to 250?
Oh, good on you. That's
Um,
not bad.
well, I did a whole series of bets that I thought, well, and then I put the entire 250 last weekend, Josh, on the Lions to beat the Wallabies. Well, we all know what happened then. My wife looked at me. She said, "You've just lost $250." I said, "No, I haven't. I've lost nothing. I would have kept on betting, using that money to the time that I lost it." She went, $250. And I went, I didn't have it though, did I? It wasn't mine. I was just betting, as far as I was concerned, I was betting play money. But there you go. Mm. But anyhow, the government has passed legislation that now prohibits online racing and sports betting operated by any other organisation except New Zealand's domestic provider, the TAB New Zealand. And these measures came into force on the 28th of June as part of amendments made to the Racing Industry Act. The legislation, it is said, or at least the blurb says, will maximise the financial returns to New Zealand's racing industries of sport. It's the most significant update to online racing and sports betting law in over 20 years. And it also increases the oversight of the TAB, says the the Department of Internal Affairs, and creates power to make further regulations to reduce gambling harm and protect customers. It's now illegal under New Zealand law for any person or organisation except the TAB to promote or take bets on racing or sporting events from a person located in New Zealand. And gambling operators that have previously offered online racing and sports betting in New Zealand have been notified that they must withdraw with immediate effect. And that was about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Joining us to talk about that and the effects upon sports in general and gambling and betting is Richard Reid, soccer boss, and he joins us now. Richard, welcome to the show. Lovely to have you on this afternoon.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Okay, mate. Run me through this. What's the view, first of all, of your sport, and then second in general, on the sports in general of betting, full stop? I'll be interested to know.
Yeah, the TAB thing actually just described is not what sports are worried about going forward. It's the new legislation which is submissions are open for, where the government is asking for 15 or opening up 15 offshore licenses to allow online gambling. And there is no requirement in those for any money to be returned back to the community. And that is a requirement under law in what we call Class 4, which is more commonly known as pokies. And that's been a requirement for 30 years since gambling was established in New Zealand, that some monies must flow back to the community. And currently $350 million, which about half goes to sport and half goes to other community groups, flows back through pokies. And under the new proposed legislation, there is no requirement for any money to flow back into the community. That's what sport and other community groups are worried about.
So let me just get this right, Richard. You've got this press release dated the 30th of June 2025 from, I think, the Department of Internal Affairs, yes it is, which makes the TAB have a monopoly over sports betting here. But you're saying that in actual fact the update to that is that these 15 licenses will be granted. Well, that would end the monopoly, wouldn't it?
No, it's slightly different. They're not
I understand what you're
they're
talking
linked,
about,
but
but I
they're
mean,
slightly
the
different.
concept was that sports betting in this country would take place. You're suggesting gambling in general, are you? Oh, I see. So you're moving outside sports betting. You're moving into gambling in general, and the people who are running all those pokies in the hotels and
Correct.
those sorts of places, run by, oh, I don't know, the Trinity Trust or something like that, giving money back, that they are still going to be allowed to continue, but there are the licenses going to be given as well. Is that right?
Correct, and the inevitability and I think the nonsense that DIA and the minister are putting forward. The whole world's moving online. Just think of retail, and there aren't too many bank branches open anymore.
Good point.
And for them to say that there's no data to show that will affect pokies, I'm sorry, I don't know what world they're living in. The whole world's moving online. So you've got to expect in 5, 10, 20 years, people aren't going to be going into a pub with a pocket full of $2 coins. They're just not going to be. And as more and more gambling moves online and there's not some requirement for the money to flow back to the community, $350 million disappears.
Okay, I'm assuming that before this proposal was put out, that sports clubs like yours, I think you're Capital Football, aren't you?
Yeah, we represent
Um,
44 football clubs.
for you, okay, in the capital area. But also lots of others would have said exactly the same thing to policymakers in Wellington. What was the response you got when you did lobby on that basis?
Well, there was no consultation at all. That's part of the problem.
Oh, I see.
And when the previous, when Tracy Martin was started this about 5 years ago, there was a requirement for exactly what I've described to happen for that money for a revenue part of the revenue to flow back to the communities was part of the bill. Since Brooke Van Velden took over it, that's disappeared.
Do you think that she is driven by what's the word? Uh, Philosophical or ideological purpose, or do you think that there is a method in her madness?
Oh, I just think it's lunacy. So none of the above.
Okay.
It defies belief, Michael. What they're doing makes no sense at all. Except
N-
it's probably going to maximise revenue for the government.
So at the one time you've got the TAB with Max with being able to have a monopoly on sports betting. When it comes to online casino betting, now they're going to grant up to 15 licenses for online casino gambling operations, which apparently are going to be auctioned. I'm presuming that money, will that come back to you at all?
No, there is no requirement under those 15 licenses. That's the difference between Tracy Martin's legislation of 5 years ago and Brooke Van Velden's of the current day. So when it was first mooted, there was a requirement for if gambling went online, for there still to be money flow back into the community. Under the current proposed legislation, there is no requirement. So all 15 licenses could go to offshore operators, and all the money would go offshore.
The online casino gambling bill has been introduced. I think it's had its first reading. It'll go to select
Yeah.
committee. You obviously and a whole series of others will make submissions on this particular issue. What's your aim? Is it to change it, or is it to get it thrown out completely?
No, no. It's only the money flow back to the community that we're worried about. We think there should be some regulation of online gambling. We're not anti that at all.
Mm.
But the 350 million, which currently flows back into the community and has done for, well, clearly the money's gone up, but there's been a requirement 30 years for that to happen. That's the bit we're worried about. We're not worried about the regulatory powers or whatever the guardrails are around it. We are just worried about the money flowing back to the community.
Okay, all right, and a proportion, obviously, of the profit you want to come back. Listen, the gambling organisations out there at the moment, gosh, you'll come up with three or four of them, and I can't remember them all at the moment, but those ones who do run the pokies and stuff like that, and the money comes back into the community, etc. How vital are they to well, your sport, for example, or football, but do you think to sport in general? I mean,
Well, they're
are
hugely
they the
vital. I can give you football's numbers exactly. About $19 million flows back from organisations like New Zealand Community Trust or Lion Foundation or Pub
yeah,
Charity or Grassroots or something like that. So 19 million, a little over $19 million flows back to football, and 14.5 million, call that 75%, goes directly to clubs.
right,
And that's used for, maybe in football's case, the purchase of balls, bibs,
yeah,
paying affiliation fees, paying ground charges to the Wellington City Council. So they're all expenses of the game.
right, and you're absolutely right. They're all spent on promoting the club. Nobody gets paid as a general rule,
No.
although you might have
And,
a bit of
and the
professional.
key thing, Michael, is that this money can't be used for professional sport.
Right,
It's
yeah,
complete. It's all amateur, what we would call community sport.
okay. All right. So I guess one of the things, ironically, that's come out of this over the last, I remember I was mayor and we had this particular issue of gambling licenses in the Wanganui area, Richard. And the
I
question was,
remember.
well, it was quite an argument, because the argument was that the people who were putting money into the pokies were the people who could least afford it. That was certainly the case 20 years ago. And then, of course, the argument of sports people was, well, you reduce the number of pokies, and then you reduce the amount of money coming into our communities, and it's a difficult balance. Do you accept that?
Yeah, I'm not trying to get into the morals of gambling. I don't gamble, mainly because I know myself too well. I'm a bit compulsive, and I think I'd probably take it up pretty quickly. But yes, I think there is a moral argument against gambling, just as there one is against smoking or drinking or any vice. But the difference is there is some good that comes out of this particular vice. I can't
All
think
right.
of a good one that comes out of smoking.
Um, you say that there was no consultation, and that it all came as a bit of a shock to you, and obviously the legislation has been introduced. Have you or any of your sporting associates met subsequently with Brooke Van Velden?
Martin Snedden, who's an old friend of mine, I got to front this, and he has written to 5 ministers, one of which he's heard back from, and is actively trying to, has sent, my understanding, has sent at least two requests to meet with Brooke Van Velden, and has heard nothing.
Okay. It makes me now realise that, of course, you're Richard Reid, the cricketer, aren't you? Or the
Oh, I
ex-cricketer.
was. Yeah,
You're a
very
very
much,
good
yeah.
bat, can I say? And that's because I suddenly realised that, yes. So how did you get involved as, if you don't mind me, chief executive Capital Football? Have you been a soccer player as well?
Oh no, I've been running sports organisations since 2001, and cricket and rugby and now football. Um,
S-
there's a commonality across all sports as to the running of these businesses.
So are you finding at all that this government is more difficult or less difficult or about the same to work with?